Garry Kasparov pushed his pawn forward in the game he played in 1999 against Veselin Topalov. And he didn't know at that point that the game he's about to play will be called one of the best chess games ever played. Topalov, another top grandmaster at that time, responded with the move d6. Kasparov played d4. And after knight f6, knight c3, g6, we have a structure of King's Indian defense. Bishop develops to e3, Topalov develops his bishop on g7, queen jumps into the game on d2, c6 for Topalov, f3 for white, and Kasparov with this move protects the pawn on e4 one more time and also doesn't allow black pieces to get into a square g4, b5, immediately starting attacking on the queen side of the board for black, knight develops to e2, knight develops to d7, and bishop goes to h6. It's an instructive move in those type of positions, as the bishop on g7 is a very good piece for black in those type of structures, and it's important to exchange it and create some weaknesses on black squares around the black king. Exchange of the bishops on h6, bishop b7, a3, and e5. Counter strike for Topalov in the middle of the board. Long castle for Kasparov, and here we have to take a look that Topalov cannot castle short side because of the rules of chess. He cannot pass the square f8, and it's protected by the white queen. Queen e7, and black wants to castle long. King b1, a6, knight c1. Knight on e2 is not doing anything. He can improve his position by going to g3, but then he doesn't have any squares to go on f5 and h5, all those protected. So c1 makes more sense because now the knight can go to b3 and then jump to a nice square on a5. Long castle for Topalov, knight b3, exchange of the pawns on d4. Kasparov takes with the rook to make sure that the knight remains on b3 and can jump on a5. c5 attacking the rook removes back to d1, and Topalov plays knight b6. g3, the move makes sense to develop the light square bishop on a nice diagonal to a square h3, because the bishop on the diagonal it is now doesn't have any good moves. King b8, preemptively removing the king from the check. Knight a5, bishop a8. It's important to keep that bishop in the game. It's an important bishop for black pieces. Bishop h3 and d5. Another strike in the middle of the board for Topalov. Queen f4 check, king a7. The bishop on a8 serves a purpose of not allowing white to play knight c6 and forking the king and the queen. Rook e1, and now the pawn on d5 is under attack because there is an x-ray on a queen on e7. Therefore d4, knight jumps to d5 for Kasparov, knight takes d5, e takes d5, the queen is under attack, queen d6. And Kasparov plays a very beautiful move, rook takes d4. And now if queen takes f4, white doesn't lose the rook because they take with the rook. They take the queen with the rook. And if c takes d4, and that's what Topalov played in the game, another beautiful move by Kasparov, a rook e7, sacrificing the rook e7 check. And now Topalov cannot take the rook on e7 because what will follow is queen d4, queen takes d4 check, king b8 the only move, queen b6 check, bishop b7, knight c6 check. The king cannot escape on c8 because there is a great bishop here. And after king a8, queen a7 checkmate. Topalov sees this variation, does not take the rook on e7, and plays king b6. Queen d4 check, king takes a5. Let's take a look at this position. White is playing without a rook and without a knight. But the king on a5, as we can imagine, is not safe at all. b4 check, king a4, and now the best continuation for white was the move rook a7 with the winning advantage. Instead, Kasparov made the very logical move queen c3. Queen c3, threatening the checkmate on b3. So that would be a checkmate. But after queen d5, queen takes d5, Topalov protects the square b3, so there is no immediate checkmate, and Kasparov continues to play without so much material. Now he plays rook a7, and the threat is rook takes a6, checkmate. But easy defense for this is bishop b7, protecting the pawn on a6, and the bishop is protected by the queen. Nevertheless, another sacrifice of the rook. Rook takes b7. What it's called deflection in chess. The queen is deflected to a square b7, and if black takes the rook on b7, queen b3, checkmate. Therefore, Topalov doesn't take the rook and plays queen c4. Obviously, there is no way white can exchange the queens, because after it exchanged the queens, the white would simply be without a rook. Therefore, queen takes f6, and the threat is queen takes a6, checkmate. The best continuation for black was a rook d1 check. Rook d1 check, the game would continue, but Topalov played another move, king takes a3. And after queen takes a6 check, he has an escape on a square b4. King takes b4. And now Kasparov sacrifices a pawn, but who is counting the pawns when he sacrificed already a couple of rooks? He sacrificed his minor pieces in this game. So c3, another great move. King takes c3. Queen a1 check. King d2. Queen b2 check. King d1. So the king from a starting position on e8 went all the way to a square d1. What a journey by a black king. But it's not safe here either. Bishop f1, sacrificing the bishop. And black cannot take the bishop on f1 because queen c2 check, king e1, rook e7 check, and after the only move queen e2, queen takes e2, checkmate. After bishop f1, Topalov played rook d2, counterattacking the queen. And here Kasparov sacrifices another rook with another amazing move, a rook d7. Rook d7, and black cannot take the queen on b2 because the rook on d2 is pinned to the king. So Topalov took the rook on d7. And here Kasparov just took the queen on c4, b takes c4, and all of a sudden it turns out that the rook on h8 is under attack. And Kasparov just grabs it with the queen. Queen takes h8. And after all this, rook d3, queen a8, c3, queen a4 check, king e1, f4, f5, king c1, rook d2, and queen a7. In this position, Topalov resigned, as he is playing without a queen, and it would be an easy conversion by white, especially by the player of Garry Kasparov level. Absolutely beautiful game by Kasparov and Topalov. And if you like the video, please subscribe, drop a comment. Thank you for watching.